Good morning and welcome back to Devotion. This week we're going to be focusing on the book of James, just taking some key passages from this book. Now, James is one of my favorite books, authors in the New Testament. And the reason is that James' writing is very different, very unique to a lot of the other New Testament writing. His is very reminiscent of the books of wisdom, the prophets, and he even has a lot of allusion to the Sermon on the Mount. Now, church history and tradition holds that this was written by the brother of Jesus, James, also called James the Just. There is some scholarly debate over whether it really was him or a different James, but most people do believe it was James, the brother of Jesus. The other unique thing about this letter is that it was written to the church abroad. It wasn't written to one specific church, which a lot of the other letters in the New Testament are, like Ephesians, Galatians, Philippians. They're all written to very specific churches, and so they hit on specific issues that that church was dealing with at the time. Whereas here, this is written to the general church. And I like that because it's not specific exhortation or rebuke or correction, but it's to everyone. It's to the entire church. And so I think it very much applies to all of us still to this day. Okay, so today's reading is going to be from James chapter 1, verses 2 through 4. Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds. For you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. And let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. So right off the bat here, James is kind of talking right down the line. And that's the thing I love about this book, is there's no misunderstanding of what he's saying. He's very direct, very blunt. And I love how he opens this. Count it all joy when you meet trials of various kinds. Now, I've been in the church world for a long time. And I would say it's very rare that when I have met someone that's also a Christian or in my church community and they're going through something, that their first response is to count it all joy. Most of the time, including myself, when I find myself going through something trying, difficult, tragic, my tendency, the first thing to do is to think something is wrong with me, to think God is trying to teach me something, or to think that the enemy is up to something trying to take me out. And I love how James just gives it to us. When you face many trials, count it as pure joy. Now, why is James saying this? This is what we got to do. When we read this stuff, we have to ask ourselves, why is he saying this? He's not saying this because he read it somewhere or some rabbi taught it to him. He's saying this because this is his lived experience. This is his life. This is what he has lived by living in the Spirit and facing many trials. He knows that in trials, there is a secret. And when we know that secret, it actually will produce joy in our hearts. And the thing about this exhortation is that it can't be faked. And it is something that has to happen internally. This is between me and God. When I'm facing a trial, internally, the dialogue I'm having in my head with my heart and soul, does that conversation lead me to victimhood, to blame, to thinking, oh, nothing ever goes right for me, all of those things. And many times it does. I mean, that's just how it is as a human. But I catch myself, and I know that if I continue in that type of thinking, it's going to lead me down a path of destruction. It's not going to produce anything good in my life. And so what I do when I find myself going down that rabbit hole is once I recognize that that's what's happening, I quickly identify to myself that those thoughts, that thinking is natural, carnal, of this earth. It's just like the disposition that I have as a human. There's nothing supernatural about it. There's nothing glorious about it. It's just if I was to let my life go on default, that's where my mind would go. But once I recognize that and I can identify it, I then can begin to welcome the Spirit into that internal dialogue and begin to thank Him for the trial. You want to talk about flipping the script on that internal dialogue in the mind, like really just making it stop in its tracks. The moment that I recognize that and begin to engage in gratitude, rejoicing that I'm in the midst of a trial, whoa, it's like throwing water on a fire, because the ways of darkness cannot comprehend the light. And the moment that I switch my heart over into gratitude, I begin to thank God. I even celebrate that I'm in the midst of a trial. It sounds crazy, right? It sounds like counterintuitive, but that's because it is born of the Spirit. And we see this pattern all throughout Scripture, where God takes something or someone's story or a situation that they have majorly messed up, or there is opposition coming towards someone, maybe armies or, Saul going after David for years on end. And at the end of the story, we see how the trials are what actually prepared that person for the destiny that God had put on their life. I think Joseph is a great example. Brother has these dreams when he's very, very young. He shares them. I don't know, maybe he was arrogant or proud about them, or maybe he shared them in innocence. I don't know. We don't know how he shared them, but he shared them. Brothers sell him into slavery. Okay, that's crazy. Then for the rest of his adult life, there's nothing but injustice. He's accused by Potiphar's wife, and because of that accusation, he's put in jail for a long time. He's living in a foreign land as a captive for year upon year upon year. And it's not till the end of the story that we see the fulfillment of God's promise, the dreams he gave him as a boy, come to pass. But it took years and years, decades maybe, of trial. And Joseph is just one example. This is a common theme throughout most of the stories of people in the Bible. The trials of their life weren't God punishing them, wasn't, they did something wrong, so now they deserve this. It actually was the trials that refined them, that prepared them, because what the trial did is it increased their faith. And that's what we see James talking about here. The next statement he makes, "Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds, for you know the testing of your faith produces steadfastness." Now, another word we could use there is faithfulness. So, I cannot prove myself that I am faithful until there is an opportunity to be faithless, to doubt, to not trust. Like, if my life is peachy keen, perfect, dancing through the tulips all the time, what do I have to trust in, right? It's just like there's no opposition. But the moment that something happens in my life, and I have been through a lot, I'm not talking in theory here, this is reality for me. I've lost a child, I have had a child get cancer, I've gone through divorce. There is a lot of pain, a lot of trauma, a lot of tragedy that's happened in my life. And I learned this. I clung to this, especially when I lost my daughter when she was 3.5 years old. In tears, in brokenheartedness, in grief, I would begin to thank God for the trial. And I would begin to tell him, this is perfecting me. You are doing a greater work in me that I can't see, but I trust your hand, and I trust that you are with me, and that you are going to work whatever you're working out in my heart and soul for whatever you have for me in the future. You're perfecting my character. You're strengthening my faith. You're testing my trust. That when everything goes wrong, when it looks like it's all said and done, do I say the phrase that David said repetitively throughout the Psalms? Yet I will trust in you. That's why it's called testing, is because you can't test something unless it has opposition. And so if you are experiencing opposition in your life right now, throw the narrative away of like you've done something wrong, or life is unfair, or God is against you, whatever the thing is, the main message is that's coming to you. The truth of the matter is that wherever you find yourself, in whatever trial or test, the moment you begin to rejoice that test is producing something eternal, something that's going to last, something that is for your betterment in the end, there will be a shift that happens. That's why he talks about joy. I've experienced this firsthand. In the midst of the most tragic, dark, horrendous, depressing moments of my life, when I have done what James is telling me to do, there is a joy that sparks in my soul that is unexplainable through logic, through intellect, through reading books. It is something that is supernatural. It is grace that comes in those moments where I trust in him and rejoice in him more than what I can see. And he concludes this, and let steadfastness or faithfulness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. And that word perfect there, people trip up over that. It doesn't mean perfect as in like sinless. It means perfect meaning like total, like completion. That means if we stick it through with God, we remain faithful, we continue to put our trust in him. Now that means I'm still devastated. I still may feel angry. I still may be confused. I still may have questions for God because I'm confused at why this thing is happening to me. That can still be there. These can coexist. But the motive of my heart, the foundation of my heart is that, God, I know who you are. I know that you are faithful. I know I don't understand this, and that's why I'm upset. That's why I'm confused. That's why it's devastating to me. But I'm going to choose to thank you for this trial, and I'm going to remain faithful, because as I remain faithful, your work will be complete. It'll be total in me, and there will be nothing in me that I lack. I will have nothing left in me that I'm desiring or wanting or longing for, because I will find everything that I'm looking for in you.